right, Shabbat Shalom. We are looking this week into our Torah portion, Vayigash. Vayigash, and it means in the Hebrew to draw close, to draw close. And it comes to us from Bereshit, Genesis chapter 44 and verse 18, and it extends through chapter 44, verse 27. Vayigash, to draw close. Of course, it comes from Nagash. Nagash, spelt Nun Gimel Shin. And it's really speaking about a son is deliberately walking towards something. A son is deliberately walking towards something. We live in a world, brethren, where things aren't coincidence in our life as believers. You have got to believe, I have got to believe that the Son is deliberately walking towards something. And do you know what that is? It's the restoration of all Israel. And that's the world and the life and the generations that we have been born into. It's not happenstance, it's not coincidence, but the Son is walking towards something, and that's you. That's restoration. Coming out of where you have been enslaved. He has come to free us all and bring us into something amazing, and it is deliberate, it is intentional, and it is pressing. It is pressing. What we're going to see in our text today, let me give you a brief overview. You see in Bereshit, Genesis chapter 44, you see Joseph's cup. That cup which really begins this trial. But our text starts in the 18th verse when Judah begins to intercede for Benjamin. And it's Judah's intercession that brings about the revelation of Joseph. And in chapter 5, Joseph is revealed to his brothers. It's about deliberately walking towards something, the revelation. Judah represents the house of Judah. Judah stands before the Father as a guarantee until all Israel returns. Judah is going to be held responsible today and is held responsible in our text for holding the exiles back from the return. Because this text literally is talking about Joseph and the tribes of Jacob or Israel. And that they have been out in the exile, and Joseph is the one that when he is revealed, they all come together. So we have to look at this today in a tribal realm. That Yeshua ben Joseph, Yeshua the son of Joseph, he is going to reveal himself to who? To who? To Judah, because Judah is going to come seeking. And then that begins a process of restoring those exiles and bringing them back. So we have to look at it with a big tribal picture, understanding that there's 12 tribes of Israel, that the tribes were scattered into the nations, and that Joseph is a picture of Yeshua because it's Yeshua ben Joseph, which of course in Jewish circles speaks of Mashiach, speaks of Messiah. So what we're going to see is Judah is held responsible, is he not? Judah is held responsible for holding the exiles back from return. And today Judah's held responsible too. Because you've got people like, I'm trying to think of his name now, a big Christian teacher, and he partners up with Judaism, and thank you, yeah, John Hagee, and they go into the nations, and it's about returning the Jews to the land of Israel. That's called false restoration. Because it's only when Judah legitimately comes before Yosef, or Mashiach ben Yosef, that it is the restoration of not one tribe, but all 12 tribes to the land. So John Hagee is partnering in false restoration. Of course, it's very popular in the Christian Zionist movement, but it is not true. Because true restoration is going out searching for that which is lost, that which is cast away, called the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's true restoration. And true restoration can only happen around Joseph, Mashiach ben Joseph. So Judah is held responsible for holding the exiles back from the return. Judah has to come to the point when he's willing to take the punishment for the brothers, including Benjamin. Judah needs to be broken so that he embodies the heart of Mashiach. That's the realm that we're living in. Judah needs to be broken so that he embodies the heart of Mashiach. Is it possible? Is it possible that there could be some stirring in the Middle East that could cause a breaking of Judah? Is it possible? Does Yahweh work in our lives to break us so that he can build us back up? Judah needs to be broken so that he embodies the heart of Mashiach, ready to give his life for the love of the Father. Because this text is all about the love of the Father. It's the love of the Father that causes Judah to repent. It's the love of the Father that causes Joseph to reveal himself. It's all centered about the love of the Father. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. It's about the love of the Father. But remember, it's Joseph's manner that causes Judah to draw close. And the exiles, you and I, we're known as Joseph as well, because we are a multicolored coat, scattered, torn, and shredded out into the nations. And that has to be restored. Judah says in verse 20 of our text, and his brother is dead. That's Judah's testimony. Judah stands before Joseph, speaking of Benjamin, and what does he say? And his brother is dead. Speaking of Joseph. Excuse me. And his brother is dead. This is exactly how Judaism refers to Yeshua ben Joseph. Right? Even though they know the record of his resurrection and the gospel to the world, he's dead. The man is dead. They don't even say his name. And until that testimony changes, we've got problems. And if anyone tries to sell you restoration without this change, don't buy it. Because that's what they're selling, and I'm not standing for it. Even though they put the screws to me. Right? It's amazing. 15 times in our Torah text, Judah mentions his father. 15 times in the text. It's got to be the love of the Father, bros. It's got to be the love of the Father that motivates us. It is so big. I say a prayer every morning before my feet hit the deck when I get out of bed. And it is the love of the Father that motivates me just before my feet touch the floor. I will not get out of bed. I mean, it's my little, all right, but that's what I do. Because you know what? This life that we live, it is the love of the Father. If I don't have the love of the Father, slay me in my bed. I don't want to get up. That is the only thing that motivates me to get out of bed in the morning. I'm telling you the truth. The only thing, the first thing that has to come out of my mouth every morning is my declaration personally, my prayer to the love of the Father. And that's what we see right here. 15 times in our Torah text, Judah mentions his Abba. Judah's judgment and rejection of the father's son caused what? Judah's rejection of the father's son caused great grief and sorrow to the father. For the love of the father, Judah makes repentance, and then, when? Then Joseph reveals himself. Then Joseph reveals himself. Yeshua ben Joseph. See, we're living the days of Joseph. We truly are living in the days of Joseph. But we are living in the days of war and appeasement. We are living in the days of war and appeasement. You see, Judah approached Joseph with 3 different tactics. First, war, then appeasement, and finally prayer. And we're living right now where Judah is approaching the nations with what? 1 minute it's war, the next minute it's appeasement. Then it vacillates back to war, and then it's appeasement. But do we see prayer? Have we got to that stage yet? We have not. That's the stage that we're looking for. We're looking for that prophetic change. So Judah approaches Joseph with 3 different tactics: war, appeasement, and prayer. And today Judah vacillates back and forth between 2 opinions: war and appeasement. And it will only be, I believe, after the utter crushing defeat that Judah will fall to his knees and come in prayer. Only after an utter crushing defeat, war, that Judah will fall to his knees and come in prayer. And then there's the revelation of Yeshua. The revelation of Yeshua ben Joseph. You see, Judah believes he's standing before a Gentile king, when in reality he's standing before his own brother. And you got all these Mickey Mouses running around with their Christmas trees and all of this nonsense, and it's like, well, yeah, we've got ourselves a Gentile king. It's called misrepresenting the gospel. You see, if we were representing him as he truly is, then maybe Judah would realize that he is standing before his own brother. But you dress him up like a pagan, you put a tree, and he doesn't look like his brother at all, does he? He looks like Zathpananeah. He looks like some Egyptian king, some pagan prince. You see, this is all the realm that we live in. And it's not okay to misrepresent the gospel. It's just not okay. Because then you are going to be held accountable for standing in the way of restoration of the kingdom of Israel. And that's the first question that the disciples asked of Yeshua. And you're going to stand in front of that? When, Master, will you restore the kingdom to Israel? Well, hang on a minute. First of all, let's set that aside, because I've got more important business to do. It's Christmas trees, shopping, and nonsense. Really? It's a serious matter. But you know what? You throw your pearls before swine, people don't care. They don't care. They don't care. It's not important. Well, it is to us. Praise Yahweh, it is to us. So Judah believes he's standing before a Gentile king, when in reality, he's standing before his own brother. And when Judah shows true repentance for the love of the Father, then Yeshua, the son of Joseph, will reveal himself. And it's during a time of famine and a time of trouble that Joseph reveals himself. And when he does, it's instantaneous. It's an instantaneous paradigm shift. You see, and that's the thing that the world would try and have you and I believe, that today, tomorrow will be as today. and next week will be as this week, and that nothing changes, everything's secure, and everything's hunky-dory. But in the biblical realm of faith, things change instantaneously, and your world is upside down, and you cannot recover, because it is such a shattering change that you will have fear and trembling to your very, very inner being. And that's how the world's going to happen. When this change happens instantaneous, they won't be able to shift with the change. You and I have to be prepared and ready, because it's coming. When the revelation comes, it's instantaneous. 1 minute they're standing before a stranger and they think that they're somewhat okay. The next minute, all of a sudden, all of their murderous treachery is right before their face, and their world changes. Instantaneously. Instantaneously. Revealing ourselves to Judah is a painful experience, if you're honest. And there's the rub. You see, when Joseph revealed himself to Judah, was it a painful experience? Oh, it was a painful experience, believe me. Because I've sat with Orthodox rabbis. I've sat with Reform rabbis. I've sat with conservative rabbis. And I've explained to them, I'm Joseph. We've been scattered into the nations. And do you know what? Rejection hurts. It's hard. It's hard and it's painful. It's painful. But it's the true calling. It's the true calling. On the other hand, I know firsthand of other popular ministries out there where teachers have gone to yeshiva in Jerusalem and studied Talmud, and they've hidden their light under the basket so that they could get into yeshiva and study Talmud. And nobody knew that they were believers in Yeshua. That's not authentic. That's disingenuous. That's misrepresentation. I would rather deal with the pain and the rejection. I once walked up to a synagogue, a Jewish synagogue, and before I even got in the door, I opened the door of my car, I got out, and I saw people going up the stairs, and do you know what I said? What happened to Yeshua? I hadn't even got inside the door, and do you know what they said to me? You can't talk about that here. Well, where can you talk about it then? And there's rejection and pain. But you know what? That is the calling. If we're going to exalt him, we have to exalt him regardless of what pain is caused to you. And I've been the recipient of a lot of pain and rejection based upon the testimony of Yeshua. But I'm not going to go like other people and go to a yeshiva and study Talmud and pretend that I'm a Jew when I'm not, and be quiet about the one that saved me. Because he says, if you do not proclaim him before men, then he will not proclaim you before the Father. You see, it's all going to come to the light. It's all going to come to the light. Don't draw back from the pain of ministry. Be strong, be courageous, and speak out against those who say they're Jews and who are not. Those who use genealogy to gain position over us and title over us in the pulpit. No. Look at what it says in chapter 45 and the 6th verse. For these 2 years have famine been in the land, and yet there are still 5 more years in which there shall be neither plowing or harvest. So what we've got right now is 2 and 5, 2 and 5. That's talking about extending grace. And that's the days that we're living in. Because time, I think, is way, way short. And the only reason that he has not revealed himself is because it's going to be extremely painful. It's going to be in a time of famine and great tribulation. And the reason he hasn't revealed himself right now, is because of what? He's extending grace. 2 and 5 is extending grace. We've got 2 fishes and 5 loaves, and he extends some serious grace, does he not? And all of a sudden, 5,000 people get fed. And when you go into the temple, you've got 2 pillars. And its capitals are what? 5 cubits each. And he extends grace so that you can come in before his very, very presence. Because the only way you're ever going to get into the true temple is through the revelation of Joseph. It's not going to be some false restoration. That's why the Melchizedek priesthood is so important, because it's always centered around the true revelation of the priesthood of Yeshua. It's grounding, it's solid, and it's extending grace to you and I, that we're even able to see this. It's extending grace. Look at the 22nd verse of chapter 45. Now, to all of them, Joseph, he gave each man changes of clothing. But to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of clothing. What's going on here? That's not fair. Oh, I hear that so often. Let's get this straight. The fairness doctrine is from hell. I'm not fair. I don't act fairly, and I do not treat people fairly. Never will. Let's understand that. I tell my children that, don't even. Fairness is from hell. Okay? That's not fair. Good. Because if life was fair, I'd be burning in hell. Right? Thank Yahweh, life isn't fair. Seriously. It's the militant secularism of society where everything has to be fair. You want fair? See? It gets me crazy. To all of them he gave each man changes of clothing, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of clothing. And to his Abba he sent the following: 10 donkeys loaded with the tove things of Mitzrayim, and 10 female donkeys loaded with corn and lechem, bread, and food for his Abba by the way. So he sent his brothers away, and they departed. And he said to them, don't start quarreling along the way. Because you know, well, he got more stuff than me. You see, silver is man's currency. Silver is the currency of redemption. 300 is numeric for ransom, or kippur, a covering. And 5, like we said, it's favor, grace, and of course, Torah. Therefore, what you see here is that the atonement price and Torah were given to who? Benjamin. The atonement price and Torah were given to Benjamin. So what's that mean? Standing before Joseph, and that's of course a picture of Yeshua, son of Joseph, only 1 out of 10 is completely restored. Only 1 out of 10 is completely restored. Benjamin was the only one that was completely restored by the redemption money and the price, which was covenant Torah. The other 9 brothers, they weren't restored. It was a false restoration, was it not? You see, only 1 out of 10 is completely restored. 10 aren't full family. They're half brothers. Though they've changed garments, their sins are forgiven. They're not full brothers possessing all that the son of Joseph has for them. Right? You and I need to possess everything that the son of Joseph has for us, that Joseph has for us. They lack the covering that living by the grace of covenant Torah brings. You see, you've only got covering if you're under covenant Torah. And they lack it. They stand without the wedding garments that came through the washing of the Torah through grace. Restoration is complete for only 1 in 10, and there's your Christian church paradigm. We need to be perfect, complete, and fully restored as our Abba in heaven is perfect. You see, in Bereshit, Genesis chapter 17, to Abraham, Yahweh said, I am El Shaddai. Walk before me and be perfect. You see, you can only be perfect standing. You can only be perfect in standing if it's under the Melchizedek covenant of Torah. Then you're covered by the work of Joseph. You're covered by the price of redemption, and that's a full restoration. You see, many are called and few are chosen. 1 in 10. And you know what they would do when it came to Shavuot? Getting everything in the muddle. Counting of the Omer. The counting of the Omer. The first day of the counting of the Omer, on the 16th as it goes into the 17th, they would take him over to the Kidron Valley. They would take him up onto the Mount of Olives, and they would wait until the sun set. And then the priest would say, with this sickle, and they would begin to harvest the standing grain of barley. And they would harvest 10 omers. 10 omers worth of barley. They'd truck it all the way back over the Kidron Valley, over the bridge, to the temple. They'd take those 10 omers of barley and they'd begin to sieve them. They'd begin to willow them. And they'd begin to thresh them on the threshing floor. They'd take those 10 omers and they would beat them and beat them and beat them and throw them in the fire and refine and refine. And after 10 omers got beaten, refined, and put through the fire, guess how many omers were left? 1 omer that was fit as a heave offering unto Yahweh. That's our life, brethren. 1 in 10. Many are called, but few are chosen. Because you have to be going through the refiner's fire. We're going to get whooped up, beaten up, and we are going to get broken. And then, that's when we're fit for the King. Fit for the King. And people don't want to do that. They don't want to go through that. They just want to be collected up over there on the Mount of the Olives and stay there happy clappy. Right? My goodness, I tell you. What the brothers did to the son of the father rent his soul. The son didn't die but live, and he ended up bringing salvation and deliverance to all Israel. Oh, it's amazing. The brothers didn't know their father Jacob, did they? They didn't know their father Jacob, because if they knew him, they would have known the pain and the loss that Joseph caused to the father. And that's what you see John talking about in the 8th verse and 19th verse of the 8th chapter. The Jews asked Yeshua, "Where is your Abba?" And Yeshua answered, "You neither know me nor my Abba. If you had known me, you would have known my Abba." You see, the brothers, they didn't know their father Jacob. Because if they knew him, they would have known that the pain of selling his son would have broken him for all those years. That was Jacob's trouble, by the way. That was Jacob's trouble, was all those years of loss of his son. You see, Joseph, Yeshua ben Joseph, comes for who? For the Israel of Eloah, Galatians 6:16. For the 12 tribes of Israel scattered abroad, James 1. Joseph informs us not to waste our time on the ways of the Gentiles, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, Matthew 10 in Matthew 15. Joseph wasn't sent to seek and save that which was lost. Joseph was sent to seek and save that which was lost, which was the 10 tribes, or the wandering Jew. You see, the prophets qualify Israel as that which was lost, a wandering flock that Joseph has to go and seek.